Hello, everyone, and welcome to round number 2 of the 2019 Memorial Championships. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Kevin Jones. And Kevin, we saw you in round number 1. We're back here at Fountain Hills for a second day in a row, kind of a new format in the 2019 version. But thanks for joining us and ready to watch some fourth card action.
Yeah, thanks, Terry, for having me on. The Memorial always does. They kind of change up which courses we play in what order, so it's always kind of a surprise and something that we're not ready for until like the week of the tournament. We don't know what courses we're going to play on in what order. So here we are, round 2 Fountain, and we know we got to get through hole 1 without too much damage, ideally.
We got Reid Frescura. We see, of course, 10, 10, 9, and 9 from the first round scores. Here's Reid's first drive. Yeah, that's a huge shot for a lefty, and we know he's got the power, but just not enough to clear there.
Yeah, he is an extremely good lefty hyzer thrower. Unfortunately, he's going to have to go to the drop zone, I think. Whoa. That was right across the basket. Probably touched inbounds, yeah.
Yeah, they'll give him the flag. That's Chris Pinegar, who comes from Southern California, relatively young player, rated, I think, 996 as this tournament was going on.
I feel like that needs to go.
Oh, wow. So a little bit daunting. We see 3 tee shots so far and 3 out of bounds. Looks like Nikko's going to get the mark. It looks like he did clear the inbounds area up there, so he'll get to putt from there to try and save his par. Here's Paul McBeth.
These are situations that Paul usually feasts on. He notices everybody else making some mistakes, and he's like, all right, I'm going to capitalize on that. Yeah.
And hangs it out wider and parks it. Paul, just the 4-time world champ at this time. Just 4-time, I say.
Right. Was this a drop zone shot, or was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was, because he didn't clear anything, then he went out of bounds actually on the back end, and now he goes to the drop zone as he was previously throwing from the long tee, and now this is the short tee. So Reid with some real struggles here to get started.
Yeah, tough start, but I can promise you he's probably not the only one to do that. What a putt right there.
Not too often you say that you can your circle 2 putt for triple bogey.
Ugh.
And Nikko was able to bring it all the way up here, so he covered or cleared the inbounds area, so he gets to come all the way up by the basket to try and save his par.
Yep, that's the miss that you almost have to make if you're trying to have a really good finish at the tournament. It's really important to at least cross over the grass here.
You got the camera stick.
Yeah, in a moment, but they can duck poop for you.
Nikko trying to get me to do some work there. He wants me to dig around in the wastewater there to retrieve his disc. He wants to use my monopod to do it. I'm usually nice enough to oblige, although this is the least exciting way to do it. So McBeth takes the birdie, and it looks like we're going to have a quick recovery thanks to one of our gracious spotters.
Hold on, Paul. He's got it. Sportsman here. Huh? Mine's purple. Right to it.
And look at that. Nikko's going to get a retrieval.
Thank you.
I'd rather not put my hands in there, but there you go.
Yeah, that water's gross.
At least you get it back. So now we move over to hole 2.
Yeah, so hole 2, you have plenty of options, especially this year because in 2020 they actually took away the big wide hyzer to the right. I think we're going to see Reid Frescura really have a really good opportunity to attack this hole. Being lefty bomb hyzer is a pretty safe play. Yeah, so Paul is attacking this hyzer route. Depending on, I don't know what the wind's doing, but that was pretty high. It needs to get down. Okay.
Yeah, lands pretty much right in the center. He gets the green flag.
Wow. What a shot.
Yeah, just going with that kind of low line drive, and he gets plenty of ground play. Does it sit down?
And yes, everybody, the coots do come into play on this hole. Coots being the type of bird I believe that those are.
We'll roll with that. I'm no Madison Walker. I'm not about to correct you, but I have heard that before, so I'll trust you.
I could be totally wrong, but I feel like that's what I've heard. Okay, so that's really aggressive, and that's going to be in a beautiful spot.
Doesn't even disrupt the birds, more than clear of them. And now Nikko, he's in great position here. We know that this green is fast, but he's in a good position right here even.
This is a good play. Nikko's trying to go kind of at that tree. Oh, my goodness. What a huge that's very unfortunate skip. Man, there's so much height on that. I didn't think it had a chance to skip that far.
Yeah, he hung it so high and wide to the right that I was surprised to see it get that much of a skip as well.
Okay. Seems to be the theme.
Yeah, and there too, I thought that was going to sit down, but it goes to how fast that green really is.
Well, we won't see it 3 times in a row. I can guarantee that.
Beautiful backdrop there as Reid's lining up his second shot. Looks like he's going with something a little slower. That's probably a mid-range of sorts in his hand, so he can kind of adjust the speed there.
Needs to settle. There's better action.
You hear Chris referred to as Junior as he's out there. Quite a card to be on. Again, no disrespect to Chris, but not someone that we typically would see out here at such a high-profile event, and a pretty good opening round for him. So awesome to see, and we'll see how he performs in such a star-studded cast. Nikko trying to save his par here. McBeth, about 8 feet to the side, same distance, similar look, coming right back up the hill.
Cash.
What are you thinking when you've already been out of bounds? You're trying not, of course, to take a bogey here. Is there more pressure on you at that point than maybe if you're putting for that birdie?
Honestly, yeah. For me, I find those putts to be a slightly more difficult than your regular birdie putts that I guess we're a little more used to. The consequences seem much worse whenever you miss a putt that's for par or for bogey than when you miss a putt for birdie. So for me, I feel a little bit more pressure, but ideally you don't want to be feeling that. You need to be thinking, obviously, that every putt is the same.
Yeah, it's crazy how you can have two 28-footers that feel so completely different, even though they're the exact same distance.
Definitely. Really good putt there from Reid and a great birdie.
Yeah, and what a great comeback, a follow-up to that, treacherous triple bogey start. He comes back here, takes the lone birdie on the card, and goes from the bottom of the box to taking the honors on the next hole.
Yep, that's all you can do, one hole at a time.
And Nikko also trying to get another spot of where that one is. It's 0 for 2 on putting this in the water, 2 for 2, I should say. Hole number 3, this is pretty straightforward. This should be a birdie all day, right?
It should be. There's not too much big-time danger other than all that OB on the right side. You really just don't want to kind of, for a righty, late release it. But Reid has got a really safe shot here, especially with the wall. Oh, wow, just behind the basket and 20 feet.
Good-looking shot. That looks like something that might have been what he threw on the approach on the previous hole, and it looks like it's a zone possibly.
It's a good shot there from Paul as well. You're going to see players reaching for anything from straight to stable putters, and mid ranges and even some overstable fairway drivers to attack this hole. It's really whatever you're comfortable with.
You got plenty of room to work with. Another good shot. Now we saw a star frame in round number 1, and right now we've got 3 great shots. We'll see if Nikko can also put himself right there on the dance floor.
Yep, it's looking good so far. That's a really overstable disc, probably a driver too. And the flare, interesting. And Reid is the furthest out here, only at 15 or 20 feet. Good putt.
So it looks like mentally he's shaken off anything that he may have had left over from the very first hole, which is good to see. Unfortunately, he dug himself a little bit of a hole, but like you said, just gotta try and come back one birdie at a time.
Yep. If he gets the next hole, he'll be in a pretty good mindset, knowing that he just erased that first hole at least, and he can kind of start fresh.
Chris hesitate for a moment, but his falls in for the birdie. Nikko's 10 or 12 feet at most here. How much does that elevated basket mess with you, even on the short putts? Do you think about that at all, especially considering your style of putt?
Yeah, it's funny you point that out. I think people like me and Nikko definitely have to at least think about it a little more. But actually, the Mach X baskets are so reliable that it's something you can really trust. You can just hammer it in there, and as long as you hit the pole, it's gonna stick. Other baskets, you can't really say the same for.
All right, we move down to hole 4, plays downhill, 463, probably throws about, 4 1/4, maybe a little more?
Yeah, at least it's really a pretty strong shot. It takes most of my power to comfortably get it there. But I'm not trying to flex it either. That needs to hit the Velcro. Good deal it did. That grass is really thick, so a lot of times you're not catching huge skips, but Paul, you're going to see doing pretty much what I would want to do myself, is a swinging hyzer way out to the right, never really getting flat, never trying to flex it. And he sawed it off just a little bit, but at least he has a putt. It's a pretty safe putt too. He shouldn't, unless he airs it over the basket, he shouldn't be worried about OB at all.
Looks like Chris is trying to go just a bit wider, but doesn't have quite the power. So it turns out to be a very similar shot from McBeth, except for he gets the roll, which you guys can't really see what's happening from the tee, can you?
No, but anytime a shot does what Paul's or Chris's did, we're always praying that it did do that roll, because it's at least a 25% chance that it's going to do that. And here we see it again. So maybe even a higher percentage. We're always crossing our fingers and being like, I just hope that took a little bit of a roll towards the basket.
So Nikko's going to be out. Nikko's going to be the most obstructed. And that's the one downside, is if you're short and right, that tree becomes your main obstacle and certainly gives you that obstruction.
Yeah, he's definitely dealing with a low ceiling here, I would imagine.
It almost looks like he's got a little bit of a spin putt lined up, or is he still going to be able to go with his regular putt?
I think you're right.
It's definitely altered. Okay, he's got a...
Okay.
Oh, okay. So he did have enough room. Unfortunately, he was probably still thinking about the branch, came in a little low.
Paul from approximately 40 feet.
Wow, that looked good out of his hand, didn't it?
It did, for sure.
I think he thought the same. And this is really the safest putt you can have. Of course, you'd love to be closer, but when you're flat like this, you don't really even have to be thinking about the road whatsoever. But Reid gives it too much power.
Yeah, I know he really wanted that putt too. That would have, I believe, got him back to even. So a little extra pressure possibly on that putt.
Hear some birds chirping. The winds are relatively low. The sun is out. It's in the mid-70s. You really can't complain about how we open up the 2019 tour here in Arizona.
No, it's the reason we all love coming out here.
See if Chris can take advantage after that little bit of roll that he got.
I bet so. Chris is a really effective player. I actually played with him in the 2020 Memorial.
And again, for the second time, we see him capitalize, and he's going to take the honors as we move over to hole number 5. Hole 5 looks a little different from what it did in 2020. As we're watching the players move on. You got to keep this one low, and there's OB on pretty much every side of the basket, isn't there?
Yeah, distance control is key here, and you really also want to keep it on the line of the basket because especially if you flip it over to the right or if you go OB long and you're not on line, you're going to be faced with a pressure putt for par, and you don't really want that on this hole. You'd at least want to either be in the circle putting for birdie or be just on line with the basket and out of bounds so you're dropping in a par. That is not looking too good. Yeah, that's a really good example of what you don't want to do.
Yeah, and we see that Discraft banner there, and it looks like it was a little bit of a headwind. Now it's almost a left to right, and Reid pulls that one way hard left, and I don't quite follow it all the way, but he is left and actually on the other side of the sidewalk out of bounds.
Oh, man. That's a tough spot. That's going to be a pretty much a bogey for him. Paul playing pretty good, probably just outside of circle 1, maybe like 45 feet, honestly. At least he has a putt, though. Nikko, I'm imagining, is going to opt for some kind of overstable flex line.
Yeah, that's kind of his bread and butter, and he kind of surprises both of us here. He just goes raw hyzer or something incredibly stable.
Yeah, it seemed like he released it pretty flat for the most part, but still opting for a overstable fast disc. Get in there. Oh, man.
Really good run. So Reid went out of bounds over the pass sidewalk, so you had to bring it back to that spot.
What? We will never, ever see that again.
What a putt by Reid to save his par.
That is insane. So I guess that path that he looked like he was across is just the walkway to the pavilion. Is that right, Terry?
Yeah, so that path is inbounds, but he went across that onto 6's fairway, and that's where he was out of bounds. So he had to bring it into this side of the sidewalk. But yeah, it's a weird position to be in. But from where he was inbounds at that spot, but he had crossed the deep sidewalk, which made him OB. So circle 3 all day, right?
Yeah, what a weird way to score a 3. We did just see Paul from 42 feet or so miss low again. I don't expect him to do that again this round. And that looked like a wounded duck from Nikko. Yeah,
he was not happy with that at all. Like right out of his hand, you could just tell he was disgusted with it, really.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens to all of us sometimes. Especially, yeah, we putt so many times. Every now and then one just comes out, and we're like, what was that?
It's like Nikko's collecting his thoughts, going to take a few deep breaths, and hopefully be ready to go when we move over the 2 shortest holes on the course are the next ones, 6 and 7. And after the OB penalty, Chris will walk away with a bogey as well. We're going to move over to hole 6.
Yeah, so if we had a headwind left to right on the last hole, we're probably going to be having a left to right on this hole. Maybe slight head as well. So I imagine we're going to see a bunch of hyzers to the right side. I'm curious as to what Reid is going to do. If he plays a lefty hyzer, it's going to be pretty vulnerable. Forehand. Good choice, Reid. This is exactly what you want to do on this hole. Play the wind and don't let it get under your disc.
Unfortunately, he just didn't get it up high enough. He got caught up by the tree there. So he's going to have a little work to do for the approach shot. Standard hyzer by McBeth.
That looks like a fast disc. I wonder what that is. If that's like a Raptor or something.
Yeah, and it did hit off that, I think, that manhole cover right there, which probably accelerated it slightly.
Nikko throwing a knife hyzer. Did that hit you too?
Yeah, that also, and now we don't realize it at first, but that actually stays up in the tree. That does not come down.
Oh man, that's a nightmare, honestly. Of all ways to find yourself taking a 4, you would really not want that to be the way.
Yeah, and then we see Chris, who doesn't get quite back toward the basket side far enough and ultimately hits and rolls out of bounds.
Yeah, that's about 50-50 if you hit that hillside, if you're going to be in or not. Yep, good up from Nikko. Important shot there.
Yeah, really no pressure, and then I capture him going up for his own retrieval.
It's a good example of good old Nikko right here. This is him in his natural habitat.
He's talking about how he's got a monkey around and give him style points for crawling up there and getting it himself. We'll see if Nikko can get back on track. That's going to be a bogey, though. Now here's Reid, who did make it through the tree after hitting it.
Ooh, hopefully the grass caught that one.
Yeah, I think it stayed up top. It went just a little past. You see it there. Now this is where Chris can save his par with a good putt.
Yeah, this would be a good putt. Uphill too, so not too afraid to run it.
Oh. Yeah, and you called it. You said not afraid to run it. I mean, he hit high. You know, the last thing you want to see him do, though, is hit the basket and have it roll back. At least he gave it a chance.
Yeah, for sure. And there's Paul with a high make there. He's not going to be coming close to the cage in the near future, if you ask me.
Paul adjusting, as you're saying, after being low on a few putts. He's 3 down through 6 now. He started at 9 under, as did Nikko. Reid, surprisingly, is still over par on the round. He's 1 over and sits at 9 under overall. And with the bogey, we see Chris give a stroke back. He's back to where he started, as he started at even. So no one really lighting things up here. And now there's plenty of birdies to be had, but no one's really tearing things up in the early goings here. Let's see if they can do it on the short hole.
Yeah, this is a one that's just right in front of you. Everybody's really hoping to walk away with this one with a birdie. And when you do get a birdie on it, sometimes it feels so easy. But when you're standing on the tee box, it's not quite that simple. It takes really good speed control. And Paul's got a zone in his hand here. This is he's just probably going to try to play it really low.
Yeah, even hitting the front of the hillside just like that and kind of skipping up, that seems to be the play if you've got it. And now, what do you think about the lefty play? He could go big wide hyzer, or do you like somebody kind of bending it around?
I can't imagine a big wide hyzer being a very good play in any scenario almost, but especially like a left to right wind, which is what they're facing right now. Reid throwing a really good shot right there. That's going to be executing a birdie. Paul's shot was really well played as well. Nikko's looking really good, and these guys are making it look really easy. You have a couple options. If you're going to play a faster disc like the zone, then you're going to try to play a little bit more ground play. But if you're going to play a slower putter with some grip to it, then you're just going to try to stick it right by the basket. That's an average shot. That's tough. That's going to be a 35-footer into a headwind with water behind. This would be a big putt. He does have the spin putt for it.
Yeah, this is one where you really have to be fully committed. Either you know you're laying up or you're running for it, and you have to just commit.
Yeah, there's no half bid here, and that's what he did. Fortunately, the putt was good enough to hit the cage and sit down. And Nikko, this isn't going to be quite that simple of a putt for him with the wind that he's dealing with.
You can see his shirt kind of flapping, the wind you're talking about.
Great putt.
Nikko certainly known for going through his mechanics. He's never going to rush a putt. He's never been accused of that. And that time it certainly pays off for him. And then you watch Reid, who quite the opposite, and that's just Reid's mechanics and his routine. He just steps up and fires away. So not too bad. You see 3 birdies and a par here. Star frames, they might be abundant, but I think when you're seeing a group go 3 under on this one, that's not too bad either.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with Chris's circumstances, I think he's fine with walking away with a par.
So there's usually a little bit of a backup as we move over to hole 8. Of course, we're not going to stand around for it, but the players probably did, and then they have to play this really difficult par 4.
Yeah, this is it is really difficult, but it's also I think it averages as one of the easier holes, like relative to par on the course. But it's as hard as you make it. Sometimes if you don't have the greatest drive, then you're going to be faced with a much more difficult upshot than if you have a really good drive and you can just pitch right up to the pin, and then you've got wind to deal with and everything. The best, most ideal play, in my opinion, is to throw a really high shot. Let's see if Paul's going to do it. Yeah, pretty similar. That's pretty much it. He's not really messing with the gap too much as opposed to just throwing over the trees.
Yeah, it's going to put him in a good position, maybe a little short of where he'd like to be, and Reid powers that one hard left.
Yeah, I hope that's not too much flip. Yeah.
I don't recall if it had hit and then rolled out of bounds, but I do recall the spotter saying something about the ground play there. So he does find himself OB.
If it would have been inbounds, it would have been really, really far up there. And then, yeah, it's a good shot. This is a tricky hole, especially if you're playing Fountain for your first time. If you have a bunch of distance, you really kind of feel a little bit scared to just throw over that hill and then not knowing where that dark, muddy water is. So it's really important to know this hole really well.
And Reid playing to the peninsula. I think we've got our spotter. That looks like Jamie. Yeah, gets the green flag.
Oh, it is, yeah. Shout out to her. She and her husband made an amazing dinner for us at the Memorial this year.
Yeah, no surprise. 2 of the nicest people you'll find, and such a great staff and crew out there in all of Arizona. One of my favorite places to go visit and to cover disc golf, as I go out there 3 or 4 times a year. And Jamie and Michael, 2 of the greatest people out there.
Mm-hmm.
And McBeth really just dissecting this hole 8, making it look really easy.
Yeah, and it should be for him. He has the power to throw really hard over those trees. And wow, Reid almost made that again. He's really good at those putts.
Yeah, he's one of those kind of circle 2. I mean, he's clearly really talented, but circle 2 specialist is kind of a superlative I'd give him. If that's the word. I think Chris wants to fight that basket. He's like, really? Really? Let that leak out left? McBeth with the easy birdie. And as these guys are tapping out, I want to quickly shout out not just Kevin for helping with this, but this is all bonus coverage from 2019 that I had by showing up to the event, getting a little extra stuff. And, it wasn't contracted, but Legit Disc Golf and Discraft and so many others kind of helped this all make it possible, along with my Patreon subscribers. So shout out to everyone for making this all possible. And, we're doing this remotely, Kevin, during the COVID-19. So we'll put another timestamp on it. Pretty crazy world we're in, but everybody's getting some bonus action, and Arizona seems like the place to be watching it.
Yeah, we're lucky to have the footage, Terry. Really, thank you a lot for doing this for us.
My pleasure. Great time to be breaking it out so we can all watch it. Now, hole 9 comes in statistically as one of the toughest, and that Peninsula Green, how daunting is it?
Extremely. This is a hole that you're not really going for it unless you just have a disc that you're like, it's okay if I lose it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, this hole almost kind of made famous even by Paul McBeth in that when he shot a 17 under out here a few years ago, this was the hole that he missed. And some people started arguing, is this a real par 3? Is it a par 4 if you look at the statistics? But when McBeth had a 17 under out here a number of years ago, this was the one par. So put that in your memory bank for a trivia question someday. And McBeth trying to get revenge on it there, skipping it off the water.
Nice. 2 really good shots. Yeah, 2 extremely good shots. Nikko, I think, is going to be about 50 feet, so that's like an arguable run, depending on how he's feeling. I imagine he's going to give it a little bit of a bid.
And Chris just trying to keep it away from that tree. And even there, that's not a bad stop. I mean, that gives you kind of full commitment to saying, hey, I'm going to lay up from there and I'm going to walk away with a 3. And you're going to pick up strokes on the field if you take a 3 here.
That is right. And then a solid shot from Reid, but still some work to do from both him and Chris. This upshot is no gimme.
He's worried about giving it too much. And fortunately, yeah, we get the OB. He knew it right out of his hands when he said it. He said, I think that's too much.
And that needs to sit down as well.
Let's see if it flares out on him.
Had to have. Yeah. I can't stress it enough. This little upshot, that's why I really don't want to have to deal with that upshot. I definitely do what Nikko and Paul did so that I at least, have a decision. Am I going to run the putt or is it just a little bitty toss up? Where they were back there is so tricky with a headwind sometimes.
So Nikko's sitting 1 under for the round and, probably off the pace of where he'd like to be. You think that's factoring into him running this?
Yeah, it is. He's definitely trying to catch up, and sometimes trying to catch up is not your best option. But if you want to win the tournament, he's probably running the putt, and I know he wants to win.
Yeah, and Nikko frustrated with his decision, saying that's what I get. And unfortunately, you have to draw metal there. If you're not going to put that in, you at least need to draw metal because it's going to get away from you real quick. There's not a lot of ground there behind that basket. McBeth, who's 5 under through the first 8. Looks like he's also lining this up.
No. That one might have stayed in.
He's going to walk over there, and unfortunately, he gets the OB as well.
Yeah, you're right, Terry. Anytime you don't hit anything on it, it's in trouble. We probably have a few salty disc golfers right now.
Yeah, it just proves how quick hole 9 can come out and bite you. And as we're kind of watching these final tap-ins, I'm going to say again, thank you, Kevin. I want everyone out there, tell me, what's your favorite hole on the front 9? That will make you eligible for a free disc. I want to know what's your favorite hole out here, whether it's relative to par or if it's just one that you think looks beautiful or one you'd like to play. It doesn't matter, but leave it in the comments, and that will make you eligible to win a free disc. And we're going to see how the rest of these guys clear things out. I feel like we had a little stunt in momentum, just like we did during round 1. Hole 9 came out and bit you guys, and it looks like it's biting this group as well.
Yeah, it can do that. Hole 9 is such a difficult hole, and a lot of times we're just trying to get that extra birdie, and I know it's bit me a few times.
These guys are going to fish out their disc. We're going to see. That's what we're looking at for everyone in the division through the front 9 of round 2. Simon Lizotte trying to pull out in front of everyone. We're going to move on with the 4th card in the back 9. We'll see you there, Kevin.
See you.